Hi there. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles. Today we'll be talking with Dale Wolf from Charleston. He collects classic radio shows. Also with us is Fred Lipp from the Decatur area. He's going to share the art of rifle making. Be sure and stay with us. Dale, thank you so much for joining us today for Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles. Dale Wolf is here with radio memorabilia today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, so glad you could join us. I'm excited about this. I've heard a lot about some of the old radio shows from my father and my grandfather, but haven't actually gotten to listen to one. Now, how old were you when you first listened to one of these radio programs?
I remember it like it was yesterday, literally. I was about 12 years old. And we're talking back about 1960-ish or so.
Okay, well, where did you, 1960, what was playing in 1960?
Really, television was playing in 1960. But they were doing some rebroadcasts on a local station where I grew up in Chicago. And I was literally in my parents' living room, and they happened to turn the radio on. And I heard a rebroadcast of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, which is a very well-known old radio show. And that was from 1938. And I thought, this is really cool. And I thought, I have to find out more about it. So I contacted the radio station, and they gave me information on how to get in touch with a place where you could actually buy shows.
Oh, I see. No, that's interesting you mentioned that particular radio program, because that's one I'm aware of. Because when that first aired, tell us the history of War of the Worlds. Do you remember what happened when it first aired?
Well, yes, because I've read about it, because I was not here in 1938. No. But first of all, my parents told me that one of my uncles was literally so frightened when he heard it on the air that he hid under a kitchen table.
Oh my goodness.
Orson Welles, who was well known in movies and radio and so on, did a rebroadcast of the H.G. Wells story, or War of the Worlds, on his Mercury Theater of the Air. Okay. And he said up front, this is a radio show. But some people who tuned in late didn't hear that. They thought it was an actual news broadcast. And it literally frightened many people in the country. Absolutely. People were running for their lives. War of the Worlds is about an invasion from Mars for people who didn't know the story.
Right. And can you imagine turning on the radio and hearing an excited voice telling you, they're here, they're here.
Right. That's right.
I can see why that, as a boy, would really engage you and get your imagination going. That's what I love about the radio programs. The idea that you're not seeing the visual, but especially as a kid, you get to sit there and imagine what it might look like, and sometimes that's more visual than anything.
Oh, and it saves so much money on props.
Oh, that's true.
Because they could literally have an invasion from Mars and not have to worry about things like that. But the imagination is so stimulated by that. There are so many shows, so many genres of radio shows, just as there are in television and movies. But they came very vivid for children and adults in the 30s and 40s, which was the heyday of radio.
Okay. So when it comes to your collection, do you collect mainly the audio versions then of the shows, or?
Right, absolutely. Okay. I found out that one of the first company, and I actually bought the War of the Worlds. And at that point, everything was on cassette tapes. So I had my little cassette player, and I played this and eventually bought more. And this is one of my older ones right here. And you can see inside this, it's a cassette, one of the old cassette holders. It holds old shows and just a listing of what those are, because you couldn't get CDs and discs and that sort of thing back in 1960. So just quickly, you have a Milton Berle show, a Blondie, which is from the comic strips. Over here, you have an Inner Sanctum show, Suspense, Lone Ranger, which many people know that one. Fred Allen, Sherlock Holmes. These are some old shows. All of these shows were half hour, and all the old commercials are included in the half hour, which I love to hear those too.
Oh yeah, that would be really interesting. So some of these were actually made into television shows later on. How do you compare the two?
A great deal of radio became television. Burns and Allen, Jack Benny, et cetera, et cetera. And some made it and some didn't. Some didn't have the conversion ability, I guess, when they went to television. Others succeeded very well, such as Jack Benny and some of the comedy shows.
Sure. Now, I was going to say, you have quite a range of genres as far as comedy, mystery, drama.
I have some of probably every genre was there. However, the two I have the most of are the two most logical ones, I think. Comedy and suspense, horror, mystery type ones, because those are the kind people say you can sit in the living room and and be frightened. Of course, frightened is a little different now than it was probably for the people who listened originally in the 30s and 40s to these.
Now, do you get any of your family involved in listening to some of the programs?
Actually, I have 5 married adult children who all know all of these names because I made them listen to them in the car. So they're probably more informed than some people. I've done a few presentations about radio shows. So I think most people know if they see me out jogging or something and I have a headset on, I'm listening to this rather than music.
Oh, I like that. What's your favorite jogging one to listen to? What gets you going?
Anything that runs 30 minutes, because then I know I've been out 30 minutes.
Okay.
Probably when I'm out like that. Probably comedy, because I can stop and start. If it's a full half-hour mystery show or something else, if I have to stop, you're stopping in the middle of a theme.
Sure.
So it's easier with something that's funny because it's jokes.
That makes sense. Now you brought 3 examples for us here. One of them I've never heard of. Let's go for the 2 that I have at least heard of. Jack Benny, the Jack Benny program. Now how long was he on radio? Do you know, before television?
He started in the early 30s.
Oh, wow.
And he was still on the radio when he was on television.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
He actually overlapped. He actually referred to his television show sometimes on the radio show, such as he might say something about, well, I may keep that joke in for the television show, or a referral either way.
Sure.
So he overlapped some years in there too.
Do you have a lot of his programs?
Yes, I have a great number of Jack Benny programs.
What are some of your favorite guests that he's had on the show?
Oh, well, he had a running feud with another comedian named Fred Allen, which who did not convert very well to television. So his name's not as familiar, but he's familiar to people who listen to radio. He was on a lot. He was able to get people who did not do radio much. He actually had movie stars such as Humphrey Bogart or Lana Turner, or Peter Lorre, or Vincent Price, people like that who did not do a lot of other radio, especially comedy, because Humphrey Bogart was not known for being a comedian. But he was able to get people like that, and he used his own wife and many of his own friends on his show too.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Now, what about Superman?
Superman, that's a little bit different example of one of the genres, because Superman, like a number of other serials, many times would be heard after school because they felt that younger people wanted to listen. So those were done in 15-minute segments.
Oh, I see.
So a student could come home from school, turn the radio on, and hear a 15-minute Superman segment, and then a 15-minute Western segment with Tom Mix or Jack Armstrong, the All-American boy. And they could hear, and they were all cliffhanger episodes leading to the next one. That would get the kids to tune in the next day. And they're the ones who had all the gifts. Write in, kids, and send in a box top of cereal, and we'll send you this decoder ring. So a lot of those came out of the old cereal shows.
I see. Do you have any of those type of memorabilia from the shows, like any of the actual items?
I did come across a decoder ring from Little Orphan Annie someplace. I still have it. I was too old in 1960 even to be writing in for these things because they did those years before. But I have that one. So most of what I have in the collection is basically the shows, cassettes, and then they obviously converted to CDs later on. I see.
Now this one kind of interests me because I've never heard of it. It's called Lights Out. It looks like it might be one that I would want the lights on when I'm listening to it.
Well, the name of that show is because the beginning of the show, they encourage the audience to turn their lights out to listen. So you'd get people sitting in their living rooms, and here's the announcer saying, turn your lights out. And you can just picture maybe a few people turning the lights down, maybe not out, and they were always creepy stories.
Sure.
More in the horror genre or science fiction type genre or mystery genre than anything else.
Did they have running characters, or was it just different stories?
No, these were different stories every week.
I see.
And it was, they're just fun to listen to, those kind. But those are full 30-minute shows with commercials included too. Oh,
that's fun. Now, how many do you think you have, programs?
I'm guessing between 400 and 500 hours worth or more.
Oh, wow. Fun. And you listen to them, like you said, you listen to them when you're jogging. And what about grandkids? Do you have grandkids?
Yes, they're all, I have 6 grandsons.
Oh, wonderful.
They're all small. It's a little too small to be listening at this
especially
point.
For Lights Out.
Well, Lights Out, yeah, maybe Superman someday, I don't know.
The Lone Ranger maybe.
But I also listen, I have satellite radio in the car, and one of those stations plays these shows 24 hours a day. So I can be in the car and not even have to take cassettes or I should say CDs now.
Sure.
In the car, because you can turn that on and they run shows.
I didn't realize that. That's really neat.
On Sirius Radio.
Okay, well I've got that, so maybe I'll have to check in. Now, what's your favorite? I don't think I asked you, did I? What's your favorite one to listen to?
Oh my, well, like I said, because it was the very first one, I like the War of the Worlds show. The only thing is that one runs an hour.
Oh wow.
Mercury Theater of the Air was an hour show. So if I only have a small time frame to listen to something, it takes a little longer to listen to that. But I have individual shows that are favorites depending on the guest star or the jokes that are used. There are famous punchlines in shows that you remember well, and I might put those on sometimes just to hear it again.
I see. Now, I was talking to you before. You are a busy guy. You know, one of those retired gentlemen. You used to be director of admissions right here at EIU, so it's cool to have that connection.
Thank you.
But you're also involved in several things within the community. Tell us real quickly before we let you go a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, like I said, I was director until 2004 when I retired, and I became involved with community things, which was fun to do because you get to meet another whole group of people that you didn't have time maybe as much for when you're working at the university. But I'm past president of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been involved with that for almost the full time since I retired. And I'm also on the executive board of the Panther Club, which is still here at Eastern Illinois, as well as the CASA organization in town and Lincoln Log Cabin Sargent Farm Foundation. And I work at the hospital and the Welcome Center. So there are various things that I do. Oh, and I'm also president-elect of the Exchange Club, which is a service organization here in town.
Wow.
But none of these things do I have to do every day. Like
it sounds so busy.
No. There's always free time.
Always free time to sit and listen to a show, huh?
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for bringing in some of your collection and for telling us a little bit about the radio memorabilia. If I had to start with one program, would you say, besides War of the Worlds, where should I start?
A comedy show.
A comedy show, like Amos and Andy, maybe.
Well, I would go probably with Jack Benny.
Jack Benny.
Because I think he's the longest running, most easily recognizable name.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dale, and we really look forward to tuning into some of these programs.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Well, Fred, I want to welcome you so much to Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, and thank you for bringing all this beautiful handiwork. I didn't realize guns could be so lovely.
Well, actually, the long rifle here is considered one of the first art forms of America. Oh. It dates back to the middle 1700s, and the gun makers are really better known from Pennsylvania, and these are actually called Pennsylvania rifles. They got the term Kentucky rifle from the fact of the War of 1812, where in 1814 a lot of Kentuckians went to New Orleans to fight the British, and they were from Kentucky, so they started calling them Kentucky rifles.
I see. Well, now Fred makes all of these rifles, and I want to ask a really basic question. I hope I don't show my stupidity, but what makes a rifle a rifle? I hear the term shotgun. Okay. What's the difference?
A rifle has grooves inside the barrel that are twisting, and this twisting causes the bullet, in this case a round ball, to turn as it goes out the barrel, which increases the accuracy. Where a shotgun, or earlier terms, this is one, a smooth bore, which the barrel has no grooves, it's just perfectly smooth like a shotgun.
Wow. You obviously have a lot of knowledge about weaponry and history. What got you into making rifles?
My father, back in the early 70s, he got involved in it, and he said, hey, would you like to try it? So I built my first rifle, and I've been hooked ever since.
Sounds great. Well, you do a very good job, and not just with rifles, but powder horns, and even your leather bag down here I know that you've made. I would really like to take the bulk of our interview to show your work. So if you could just, do you bring your favorite, I'm wondering?
Okay.
Do you
well,
have your
I don't really have a favorite. This one I finished in the 80s. This is a rifle. All of these are, incidentally, I'll stop for a minute, are flintlocks, which is an early type of lock that they used where after you load the gun, maybe I should demonstrate that, where you take powder from your horn, you pour it down there, then you take a patch and a ball and you shove it down the barrel using your ramrod here, okay? Then after this is done, you take and pull back the hammer, you put powder in here and you close it, you pull the hammer all the way back and it's ready to fire. We have, right here, we have what's called set triggers. You pull the back one all the way back and then you put your finger on the front trigger and the gun will go off, and that's called a hair trigger. That's where the term came from.
Now, is that like a burl walnut? It's beautiful.
This actually is called curly maple. Some people call it fiddleback maple. It's rare, and this is an extremely fine piece of wood. My father bought me this, and he said, son, if you're that good, let's try it on a good piece of wood. So he did.
Beautiful. And what's the metal on there?
This metal is all steel, except for this part right in here. It's called furniture, and this happens to be German silver for this particular gun. This patch box, my dad thought all the Lipp guns should have this style patch box on it, so when I have a metal patch box, it is this style.
I see.
Okay. If I could also talk about my next gun that I shoot the most.
And so you do shoot these? Do you go to a range or?
I shoot these competitively.
I see.
Okay, this is a smooth bore, again a flintlock. This only has one trigger though, and this trigger is a little harder to pull than the other one. It's a smooth bore, like I've said before, and there's no rifling in the end. And actually there's no sight above the rear plane of the gun, just like a modern shotgun would be with just a front sight. Okay.
Okay.
The next gun that I'd like to show you is a gun that my father and I started and made together. After he passed away, I finished it. Okay. This is called a Jaeger, which is a German style gun. Notice the different trigger here, the rear trigger. It has a wooden patch box here.
And what's a patch box?
Well, when you load the gun, you put the powder and then you put a patch over it, a cloth patch.
I see.
Generally it's pillow ticking. Okay, a flintlock and so forth. Okay, my father started this, and then after he passed away, I finished it.
It's beautiful.
And this is the gun that I take deer hunting. You notice the sling on here, that makes it easier to carry. Another project that my dad and I started was this pistol.
Oh, so you make pistols as well?
Yeah, well, this is again.
Oh, wow. That looks kind of like one of those old dueling pistols like you see.
Yes, it does. It does. It does. Okay. And again, a flintlock, the sights, but this is kind of different because instead of pushing the trigger back for a set trigger, you push this forward.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can fire the gun.
Now, with any of these, do you get a lot of kickback?
Actually, no.
Okay.
There's hardly any kickback because the guns are relatively heavy.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Okay. Now this is a horn that I made. It's got the part sticking back here like this.
Would this come off of a steer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the grail work across here and so forth. And I carry it on my left side. And you'll notice how the horn wraps around my body.
Yes.
This is an extremely excellent horn.
That's really, it's something you look for then when you're selecting what to use.
Right. And I made this horn, and I tried to style it after what's called a French and Indian War horn.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Here's a later horn that I made, and this is called a screw tip horn, which the end actually unscrews.
What, is that part of the horn?
Yes.
It's just darker, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because the inside where you've carved it is a darker color, I see.
Yeah. Okay, this is not stained or anything.
Wow.
And most people think that the hole here is to fill the horn easier.
Sure.
According to the experts, it is not. It was a manufacturing technique.
Oh.
When they mass-produced horns, that's what this was for.
Well,
Okay?
yeah. That is neat. I didn't know that this stuff could be so, I mean, it really is a work of art.
Well, thank you.
And you say, according to the experts, I would consider you one of those. Now, show me, you've got a beautiful case back there. I would love for you to bring up. I don't want to miss that.
This is a shotgun box that I made. It's out of mahogany.
Oh, and dovetailed, so pretty.
Hand-cut dovetails right here, okay? And then this is the gun. It's a flintlock double-barrel shotgun.
Oh, wow.
And this is so unique to Illinois that some friends of mine, we always had a meeting on Wednesday night, and somebody mentioned, let's make some flintlock double-barrel shotguns. So we made 9 of them.
Oh, wow.
There was 9 guys there, and I made all of the metal parts, the butt plates, the trigger guards, the triggers, the entry thimble, and the key that holds it together when assembled.
Now, would that be blacksmith work or what?
No, this was actually just metal work.
Okay.
That's all it was. No, in the originally.
Did you make this?
No, I did not make.
Oh, I just said, wow.
No. Okay.
Look at all of that. That is just beautiful.
So.
And now a shotgun like this would be used for what?
Hunting birds.
Okay.
Okay. And if I could differentiate between the shotgun and the smoothbore, which is also, in modern terms, a shotgun, you could also shoot a round ball out of this. The Indians, yes, Americans did trade with the Indians, and they did it respectfully. Indians like this gun better because you could either shoot birds with it or shoot deer with it.
I see.
So it was for them, it was a means of getting food.
I see. Now, you mentioned getting together with friends. You go to Friendship, Indiana quite a lot, I hear.
Yes, I do.
What
That's
for?
Home of the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association, and they hold a shoot in June and September.
I see.
And once you go there, you're addicted. Yes, and I've been going there for over 30 years.
I see.
So it's a great place, and I shoot competitively there. I love to shoot the silhouettes. As a matter of fact, I shoot them every morning that I'm there. And then I'll change clothes and go up to the primitive side and shoot over there too.
Oh, I see.
So my father got me started doing this many years ago, and my sons have both gone, and now my grandson is gone. So there's been 4 generations of Lipps go to the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association.
So it's a pretty good family activity
Yes,
to get involved with, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Some people are afraid of guns. What would you say to them?
Without sounding harsh, ignorant. Okay, they're very safe. Their safety, like at the Nationals, is strictly enforced. And if you don't do it right, and you don't correct yourself, then you're gone.
I see.
So safety is a big thing, and guns are safe if handled properly. So.
All right. And how many guns would you say you've made to date?
I really don't know, 8 or 10. After I made my second gun, then I made my son one, and now my grandson has the same gun, and it's kind of been carried down.
Wow.
So, and I shoot one of my dad's guns at silhouettes at Friendship too.
See, I love that. It's what a beautiful heirloom.
Yeah.
To give generation to generation, and these are going to last many, many moons.
Oh yeah, right.
Now I see a hat. Do you do reenactments as well, or do you just
We don't
dress
call
in...
them reenactments. We call them rendezvous.
Oh, okay.
And I have a rendezvous coming up here shortly, and which I go and enjoy. There's a very big one in southern Illinois at a place called Fort Deschartres, which was one of the first settlements in the state of Illinois. Oh. And there's like anywhere from 300 to 600 primitive camps there.
Wow.
So it's a big deal.
Now, what about your wife? How does Pat like your hobby?
Patsy accepts my hobby. Okay, she's been to Friendship once, and but she never goes with any of my other expeditions.
Well, she was here today helping you, wasn't she?
Oh, yes.
Helping you
yes. She
put your things up and...
Right, yeah, she's a good woman.
Well, Fred, I'm so glad that she actually contacted us about your hobby, because otherwise we may not have known. So thank you so much for being willing to come and to bring your lovely work, and we wish you the best in your hobby.
Thank you so much for having me, okay? I just love to spread the word.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Fred. That's all for this week on Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles. If you know someone you think we might be interested in talking with, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Duska Cornwell.